Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Hi, I missed you so much. Please subscribe, like, and comment. Today on the show, I have a special guest. His name is Daniel, and he's going to tell us about himself. A boy blaming himself. Basically, that is what we are going to talk about today. Daniel, thank you so very much for coming on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's an honor.
Thank you. So tell us about yourself, where you are right now, what you do, what you want to share. Just tell us.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a filmmaker and writer from Baltimore, Maryland, in the United States, and I've been working in the video industry since 2009. I've been doing a lot with corporate videography, event videography, and also creative filmmaking all at the same time. And somehow I've managed to make a living out of all of it. And it's been a journey, ups and downs, but it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. So your videography and film editing, is that a passion or you just picked it up? Is that a
Uh,
passion?
so it really started kind of by accident. I had a close friend who was into film, and as we got out of high school and went into college, I was actually going to do pharmacy of all things, and sort of realized that like the creativity was where I was wanting to be, and so he sort of talked me into going into the film program in college, and I after that I really stuck with it. And after graduating, it was a weird transition because I only knew a few people that actually worked full time in the industry, and I managed to get in with a few good folks, and somehow, despite it all, there's always money that was being made enough to like support me and my endeavors and everything like that. So it's always been a passion of mine, and it's just been amazing that somehow I've managed to make it work.
It's good. It's not easy. I know just the scratch of what I know about editing is frustrating, but you took it up upon yourself to learn to be a professional in that field, which I do hope I have a tutor, someone to actually sit down and teach me how to do it because it is hard. It is it's so
Yeah, it
hard.
can be. Just
Thank you so much. The weddings that you went to, how was it? Did you feel like being part of it? Like aside from taking pictures now, did you feel like getting married? All those pictures you were taking?
so weddings, again, it was another thing I sort of kind of fell into. I had someone reach out to me through Craigslist of all places, and offered me a chance to do videography while he was doing photography. And I was just like, okay, it seemed like a good opportunity at the time, and it really stuck for a long while. And when I was, in the thick of my first like long-term relationship, it was a lot of fun because we would go out and we would film the weddings together a lot of the time, and sort of like, not really, it wouldn't be a date, but it'd be fun because you're in an event, everybody's happy, you're having a good time filming and everything. um, but after that relationship sort of came to an end, in kind of a rough way, that's sort of when weddings started becoming more of like a chore, so to speak, in that, it was, when you're out of a relationship like that, there's a lot of alone time when you're filming a wedding by yourself, and seeing all these people getting married while you're kind of struggling with your own relationship demons, so to speak, uh, became kind of taxing over the years, and it just kind of got worse with time because it was one of those things where it was like really hard to say no to because of the amount of money that I was being able to make from it. But every time I would do it, it would just be like torture almost, because I wouldn't want to be there, despite it all. Like it would just be very difficult to hold composure while, watching the sort of same thing, these same people or these different people doing the same things, having this like extravagant, awesome day, while you're just sort of in the corner, you know, watching along. It was taxing, I'd say.
But you kept pushing, even when you were not okay mentally to handle that situation. What did you do after the event? How were you able to, cope? Because after the whole drama quiets down, you're now alone, and then your thoughts come
Hmm.
into play, and this is just you and your thoughts. What happens then?
Well, it goes to the book that I recently published, where it was just what I would do was either at the event or after the event. It was a lot of just like writing, and a lot of that came out in the form of just poetry. And so, if I was at the event, I'd have my phone, like I'd have chances to have my phone out, and I would just have a little notepad application on my phone, and I would just jot down thoughts or feelings. Um, and so that was, I think, kind of the biggest way to sort of get things out. Uh, and it was cathartic, but at the same time, it didn't silence everything, so to speak. There was still this like huge amount of anxiety that would go into the lead up to filming the wedding. So I would always find the same thing would happen, where it would be, you know, Sunday if I didn't have a wedding, and Monday were really good days because it felt like the next wedding I would have to film was forever away. But then as the week sort of trickled on, the anxiety would get worse and worse. And then I
Mm.
would realize, like, especially on a Friday, like Fridays were always horrible because I'd be like, all right, here we go. Like tomorrow I'm filming a wedding, and we're gonna have, 8 hours of silence in my own head as I'm like trying to seem super happy for these couples and stuff like that. So yeah, so the writing piece was really what kind of kept me afloat, just being able to get those thoughts at least on paper.
Okay. So you did what you loved, which was videography, but because of your relationships, it broke you. You were not having fun doing what you did anymore. Didn't you have a community of friends or someone you could talk to, or like aside writing, something you just ease your worries, your stress, someone to tell, something else
Yeah,
to do?
yeah. So honestly, like some of those things came out in some bad habits, wherein when I was making like really really good money, I would either hang out with friends or like my one really close friend, and we would go out, and what we did, like our thing was always playing basketball together. So like that's what we would do, is just play basketball, and then usually we'd go out to like a restaurant slash bar. And honestly, like I was never someone who became like what you could call an alcoholic, but I found that like when we would go and eat and everything, I would drink like at least a few drinks, and I'm a skinny guy, so like, 2 or 3 drinks, and I'm good to go. I'm kind of under the table, so to speak. So that was one of those bad habits that sort of came about, was just because I knew I was making so much money and had so much money to kind of just burn. I was just, I would buy a lot of drinks, buying food, just kind of living kind of like unhealthily for a while, um, because it was like an escape from thinking about the past relationship, from thinking about any kind of upcoming weddings and things like that. So, like, that was kind of the negative side that I took. But on a more like positive note, there's also like, the support from my family, my parents, that I could go to. And my mom has always been like very receptive of just taking time to like listen to me and everything. So a lot of times, just being able to confide in my mom, and also a couple other like close friends, kind of, helped ease that world. But even with that, like nothing really changed like that anxiety that would go into that, like, dread of the day that would always inevitably hit, even if it was at the very least like the morning of or the night before, kind of deal.
So if being in those moments, in those events, sent you down memory lane, thinking about your past relationships and the whole anxiety, why didn't you stop? Was the money worth it? Was it worth putting your mental health at risk?
you know, money, it's hard. Well, it's easy to say that money is like not worth the risk of all of that. But I'd say my biggest conflict in life and what I've always kind of had this fight between is just like a side of just risk aversion slash like being sensible, and then like an escapist sort of wanting to take bigger risks. And so, what it became was just I knew it wasn't healthy for me, but like I used the money that I gained from doing weddings and stuff like that to buy the house that I'm still in now. And all of these things that sort of like rooted me into an area. And, for a little bit, it was nice because, it felt like, wow, I've managed to buy a house based off of just freelancing and owning a business and all this stuff. And it felt great because like I really made myself into that person. It wasn't that I got hired by someone and worked for a company. Like I built my own company, built my own niche, and was able to do that. But yeah, it just, looking back on it, it's like, do I wish I would have taken more risks with like maybe going to a different area or a different market, pushing more into the creative field at a younger age? I think like there is a little bit of regret there. But that's just because of, thinking very sensible and trying not to take extreme risks for the fear of, failure. I think that's the bottom line is just I I always like was afraid that if I would have gone to somewhere like a Los Angeles type of area and then had not been successful and had to come back home, like
Yeah,
that just felt like this like huge defeat that I couldn't bear. But
I guess.
I kind of wish I would have tried it at the very least because you never know, you know?
Yeah. If you don't try, you won't know.
Exactly.
Your poem, yeah, it's a boy blaming himself. What exactly are you blaming yourself for? Is it just
Well,
the relationships or it was just, a name? Or those, because I think I read one regarding your ex. I read about I think grammar. I read
mhm.
grammar. I read ex. I think I read like 7, 6 about the ninth. And so what exactly are you blaming yourself for? What regrets, aside from, maybe you would have tried somewhere else to move to like Los Angeles to see how it would be, or what exactly are you blaming yourself for? Because you had, well, aside from the relationship drama, you had the perfect life, kinda, to
Mhm.
what meets the eye. It was like perfect. You're doing your own business, you're earning your money, and you're young, you can do anything. So what are you blaming yourself for?
Well, so again, the anxiety and kind of depression that I've dealt with over the years tends to make me kind of an overthinker. And when I look back on a lot of things in life, it's just like with my grandmother, for example. When I felt like just when our like relationship was starting to kind of like blossom into a mature sort of like being able to talk to her as more of an adult and less of just like a kid, it's like that's when she passed away. So it felt like, wow, like what if, I would have maybe turned that corner a little sooner or had some of those conversations I wish I would have had with her before she passed away. So like there's, this little bit of innate blame in that, or looking back on the relationships and thinking like, I know I wasn't meant to be with this person, but like, could I have done things differently on my side? Could I have been more attentive in certain moments and things like that? So there's, that little bit of blame with that. And then, yeah, back to the career stuff. Like, should I have not just gone the easier route and saw, okay, weddings is a way to make good money very quickly? Like, should I have said, okay, I can do that a little bit, but I can also, do these other things and experiment with my creative side? But instead, like, I doubled down on that, like, work mode of just doing that over and over again, because, every time I felt like I wanted to walk away, there was, another client would come in and just be like, "Hey, we're getting married this day. Are you free?" And yeah, I'd be free. And then it would be another couple $1,000 just from doing that. So it always just became this like repeating kind of dangerous pattern of just like, all right, I'm not going to take any more weddings. Somebody would come along, offer me like a good rate on like my services, and then I'd just be like, that would be nice to have that money, because like, I'm trying to renovate my house and that could go to that, or I have a car payment, so that could go to that. So there's a lot of just like blame with that. And then I'd say the last kind of piece is just blame on opportunities over the years with like, I've met a lot of different people, a lot of different, girls from meeting on like dating apps and stuff over the years, that I feel like I could have possibly had like a deeper relationship with, but because of my own kind of barriers that I would put up with people, things just didn't work out. And so over the years, I've witnessed a lot of like people that I had a short relationship with, and it's not love per se, but there's like strong feelings that develop in that short amount of time on both sides. But then I'll see those people, like the next person they'll be with, they'll end up getting married, having kids. So it's just been this weird thing of just like watching that happen over and over again. And so there's this blame in that too. Like, could I had something better or different with those people over the years? So there's just been a lot of things that I find myself just mulling over, and it's not healthy, but it's just something that I just find myself inevitably doing whenever I seem to have too much free time, or too much time in between working or doing things, doing projects and stuff like that.
I think regret is something everyone in one way or the other has experienced. But the thing about regrets is you learning from it. You're now conscious of it. Listening to you talk, I started having flashbacks of, all the things I have regretted, all the things I was wondering if I said this instead, this have worked. If I try this instead of procrastinating, it's inevitable. I think it's part of the things that make us human, but
Mm-hmm.
giving it power over us, allowing it to overwhelm us, think that's where we need to be self-conscious. As at last year, from 2019, I think 2019 August, September to last year May, I was not myself mentally, because I was in this ball of regrets. I was going over and over and over one particular scenario, and I was like, if I had done this differently, if I had said this differently, if there was a lot of if, and it was really draining, and I was toxic to people that were close to me. I didn't really have, aside my family, I really didn't have that inner circle or inner community, because I was all around regrets going. And I had to talk to somebody. I had to, I needed closure.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, basically I needed closure. I needed someone to tell me that, okay, yes, you're not to blame. I needed to hear that I wasn't to blame. But even you telling me I'm not to blame, there's still that voice in your head that is, you should have done this or said this differently. And I do understand it took a lot of reassurance and a lot of words. I had to consciously love myself with all the flaws, all the mistakes. I had to basically wake up every morning and tell myself, that I am not to blame. I had to do that for a very, 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 very long time. I think when I was,
Mm-hmm.
even when I started the pod, I think a week to when I started the pod was when I got myself mentally, that I was like, okay, yes, let me do something on self-worth, self-esteem, self-reassurance. You have to consciously love yourself and tell yourself you are not to blame. Now,
Mm-hmm.
in your case, when I heard you talk about your grandma, it was like I I almost cried, honestly, because it's really sad. It's really, really sad. Not the other relationships. Yes, we can get the other relationships, but it's not compared to when you lose somebody and you know there is no way to get this person back at all. That is like really, really, really sad. You
Mm-hmm.
said you went to therapy. Did it work?
Yeah, so I started. So I, had instances over the years of doing like small bouts of therapy, and either due to like just my work being kind of all over the place, or just not committing to it, it would sort of go a couple weeks and then it would fizzle out. But finally, last year, before the pandemic kind of took hold in like January of 2020, I started sitting down with a therapist, and it was. It seems like something that's so simple, right? You sit down with somebody and you just talk, and it just seems like something that isn't going to really do much, but my goodness, it like makes such a huge difference. And so since then, like, the amount of just focus that I've been able to have, and feeling like I can let go of so many different things, has just been like, it's just been astounding. Like, the fact that through this, like, I was able to work up the confidence to self-publish this book of poetry, which was something I never thought about, up until this year, or this past year. And, just feeling like I can take more control of my career. I can get back into the creative side of the things that I've been wanting to do for a long time. And just, putting myself out there in a way that I haven't really done before. So I'd say, to your question about if it works or not, yes, I'd say 1,000 times over. And to anybody out there that's like watching or listening or thinking about therapy or something like that, I highly recommend it, just because you'd be amazed at like how quickly you sort of, let that person in, and how quickly, like, just kind of getting things out to a third party that is sort of impartial, and that doesn't have judgments for what you've done in your past, or doesn't have judgments for your regrets like you might. It's just so remarkable, like, how much of a difference that makes, and how much like more you can get out of life just by having like a simple conversation once a week, or once every other week, or maybe even once a month. It's just amazing. So my journey with it has been like awesome, and one of the best decisions I really made to start last year, I'd say.
That's wonderful. Wait, are you done with it or you're still going to therapy?
So I'm still going. I've sort of lessened it a little bit, where it's just kind of a once a month deal at this point. But to start with it was once a week, and then it was kind of once every other week, and now it's down to once a month. But it's just because, through talking through so many things, I've kind of learned, how to cope better when certain issues pop up, or anxieties pop up. And so through that, I've gotten those skills. And, the once a month like helps me out a lot, because, if there's just little things that kind of come out of nowhere that maybe I haven't dealt with in a while, or, old feelings that sort of like come back to roost, like, I have someone that I can still chat with about that, and can sort of help me through that in that, time that we see each other.
That's really nice. I think everybody actually needs somebody to talk to. We need that cheerleader in our lives. We need someone
Mm-hmm.
to share our burdens with. We need to surround ourselves with people that do not judge. I did an episode on communication when we were talking about mental health, when we're doing the mental health series. It is important to communicate, but more so, even in our communicating, it's best to surround ourselves with people that we know in passion. Not a lot of people have access to therapy, and if you've made it easy that you can, have a therapist on your phone, you have somebody to talk to. But if you feel weird talking to a therapist with the name tag, then
Mhm.
I think that is what friends are for. That is what our families are for. But thing with families is it's impossible to judge. It's impossible not to judge rather the things with families. But the right friends, the ones can build you, elevate you, listen to you without, just it is very, very important. I think each and every one of us as individuals should have that. And I am telling myself this too, because it's hard. It's actually hard opening up to people when you're so
Mhm.
conscious of what they may say, how they may look at you afterwards. It is, it's hard. It's really hard, but I think it's something that would help. As you said, it has helped you with your anxiety. It helps you to let off steam. You're able to
Mhm.
get more in control of yourself more. So it is really, really beautiful. So any last words? Is there anything you want to tell the people
Uh,
listening?
I'd just say that, like, if you're thinking about trying something new or thinking about like putting yourself out there in some different kind of way, the best thing you can do is, don't, like, I can say from experience, like, don't overthink it, just it's like I was saying earlier, like, if you don't try it, you're not going to know. And there's a lot of reasons why you can tell yourself no, or why you can tell yourself you might fail at something, but you just really have to just take that dive, because you don't know what the response is going to be.
Sure.
Like I said, I wrote these poems not thinking they would ever go anywhere, and now that I've put them out, which was super scary, I've gotten all these people that have said, I've been there, man. Like, I've dealt with this, and the way you put it is like so beautiful, and I appreciate that you put yourself out there, because it makes me feel like better that I've dealt with this too, and I'm not alone in this. And you just be surprised that, like, when you do finally take that dive, how much of a positive response you'll get from people. But you just have to try it. Really, at the end of the day, just don't be afraid. Just try it, and do what you want to do in life. Because there's a million reasons why there's a no, but if you find that one yes, and that's all that matters.
Totally worth it. Thank you so very much. It was nice having you on the show. Guys, anything you want to do not procrastinate. If you don't try, you will know have a community you can talk to. Talk to anybody. Not anybody though. Yes, not anybody, but look for somebody to talk to. Do not procrastinate. Take reasonable risks. Reasonable. Is it risk? Yes, I pronounced it right. Yes. Do
Yes.
take good decisions. Do take good decisions. Daniel, this was amazing. Thank you so very much for coming on the show.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It's been an honor. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Guys, I will put his Instagram name down there, so in case you want to read his poems, they are amazing. I have my own copy that I am not going to share, so if you want, you can send him a message, and he can share it with you. This was amazing. I will talk to you guys next week, Wednesday. Bye.